We all know that E.T. went home in the end. But how did he know that his people were returning to get him? How are messages transmitted to the great, vast blackness of space? Radio waves are useful in helping one send messages to Earth from space. Sound is the vibration of air particles. In order for one to hear sound, it must travel through air, of which space has very few per cubic centimeter. Space, being an almost perfect vacuum, does not allow sound to travel and be heard by the ears. So, any sound that is heard in space has to be another sort of wave, such as a radio wave. For the propagation and interception of radio waves, a transmitter and receiver are employed. In this case, the transmitter is in E.T.'s spaceship, all the way up in space. A radio wave acts as a carrier of information-bearing signals. The information may be encoded directly on the wave by periodically interrupting its transmission, or impressed on it by a process called modulation. In this case, the sounds are converted into electrical signals by a microphone, amplified, and used to modulate a carrier wave that has been generated by an oscillator circuit in a transmitter. The modulated carrier is also amplified, then applied to an antenna that converts the electrical signals to electromagnetic waves for radiation into space. The actual information in a modulated signal is contained in its sidebands, or frequencies added to the carrier wave, rather than in the carrier wave itself. The two most common types of modulation used in radio are amplitude modulation, also known as AM, and frequency modulation, also known as FM. This diagram shows how amplitude modulation would look like. Now, our receiver is back on Earth. Receiving antennas intercept part of this radiation, change it back to the form of electrical signals, and feed it to a receiver. The tuning control on a radio receiver adjusts the local oscillator frequency. If the receiver is tuned to the frequency of the signal, it will amplify the signal and feed it to circuits that demodulate it, which means it will separate the signal wave itself from the carrier wave.